Hello, my name is Emily Erickson, and this is my engineering statistics project on measuring lung capacity using balloons. So the driving question for this whole problem was, does gender affect lung capacity? So I decided to set up an experiment where we tied a string from a post to a tree, and on that string a straw was put through it, and then you would take your balloon already blown up but not tied off, and you would put tape over the straw and connect the balloon to it. After that, you would then let it go from a designated point. To measure the distance that it traveled, we took a tape measure, measured the distance, and that was basically the lung capacity of said person who let the balloon go, or who had blown up the balloon. Because we are in quarantine, I had a very small pool to choose from, but thankfully we did have an even amount of girls and guys. There were 4 guys and 4 girls, and because there was such a small pool, I decided to have everyone go twice to get a little bit more accurate data, even if we couldn't have as large of a pool of people. So from the data, which we will look at graphs in a little bit, we can see that there is a trend from the means that guys do have a larger lung capacity than girls, at least as a trend. But one thing that we did notice that there is an outlier for the girls' data, where there was a value of 199 while the mean was only 107. So this definitely skewed our data a little bit, as we can see in these next graphs. So this is the guys' data, where you can see that there's obviously a trend that is, in general, higher than the girls, except for this value, which is where I was saying the outlier was. And this definitely did skew our data and the statistics that we eventually got from it. To get the stats for it, I used a 2-sample t-test. And in this test, you put in the data for each value, and our null hypothesis, the one that we're testing it against, is that girls and guys have equal lung capacity. What my hypothesis was that guys have a greater lung capacity than girls. So running this test with those hypotheses in mind, we ended up with a probability of 0.1 that guys and girls have equal lung capacity. So this is not quite close enough to a value of 0.05 that we would want to be certain that guys and girls have different lung capacities, but because of our skewed data and possibly some other errors throughout the experiment, this data was not something that we can be certain of, but we can say there's definitely probable cause to believe that girls and guys do have different lung capacities, with guys having a greater one than girls. Now we have some pictures of what this experiment looked like. It was a bright sunny Easter day that we were able to do this, so we had my grandparents, our friend Kevin, my siblings and I, and my mom, and my dad's the one taking the picture. So we just did this in the backyard. This is the post of one side that it was tied to. There's the little piece of tape that we would stop the balloon at and start letting it go from, the little straw on it, and the tape that we put the balloon on. And then this is the full span of the entire string. We thought it would probably go pretty far because the straw was on such a small string. So this is what it would look like, kind of stop motion, where my brother's holding the balloon, and then this is right after he lets it go. And now here's a little video clip of what it actually looked like.
Ready?
As you can see, it didn't actually go as far as we were hoping it would, but in general, that is how most of the parts looked. Now this is my mom's balloon going. So on this one, it wasn't quite as accurate because the balloon, as you could see, did a little rotation, and this happened without any rhyme or reason that we could see, and definitely I think added to the balloon not going as far for some. But because I was hoping it was random enough, I don't think it affected the data too drastically, but it was definitely a source of error that could hopefully be remedied in further trials or experiments regarding this. So in conclusion, there was definitely a trend that guys have a greater lung capacity than girls, but because of the statistical evidence, we cannot be certain that that is the case. Although in our experiment there were errors and an outlier, so we can say that there is probable cause because of those things that would lead us to assume that guys do have a greater lung capacity than girls. One fun fact that I just wanted to point out, my grandparents were also part of this, so we had 3 generations of guys and girls, and in each one there was an obvious trend that the guy did have a greater lung capacity than the girl. So in conclusion, there is a trend, and this trend is cross-generational.